Hey, I'm Adam Thompson. Today I'm going to go through some ways that we can identify what the key, fulcrum, focusing, best spot to look at point is on a given system. I call it the Pacesetter. Let's get right into it. Okay, this stuff behind me is from a previous video that I did explaining how the don't bother the barista concept, which comes from Eli Goldratt's theory of constraints, is a useful thing. I'm now going to talk about this step here called identify the Pacesetter and give you some ideas about how we're going to do that. Let's get rid of this. And I'll just put up this as a quick reminder of what we're talking about. If a work system has to go through A, B and C to get to the end, then the whole system can produce 5 per day because that is what I call the Pacesetter. And there's no point working on any other part of the system other than B, which is a basic principle of leverage. It's a principle of the 80-20 rule. It's a principle of Napoleon saying let's focus the resources onto this point. It's all about using our resources wisely. So, step one of this process, which all comes from Eli Goldratt, by the way, in his genius book, The Goal.
Is it understood, yes or no?
Is to identify the Pacesetter. So here's some of the methods that I use. There's obviously stats. So if you're running an ERP and there's ways to actually see where things flow, you can perhaps look at the data that tells you where's the point in the process where things get the most held up. You might have access to that. But unless we're talking about those sort of production lines, often we have to use a bit more intuition, which is why another question that I like to ask is, who is the person that everyone complains about? I'm not talking about a person, I'm normally talking about a department or an area. And I think we all know what the answer to that is. Let's all blame IT, and even within IT, it's those that set up the environment that are often the ones that cop the flack within IT. So what's going on is they have become the Pacesetter because everyone wants them to do stuff. In other words, it's not just A taking coffee orders, passing them on to B, the barista. There's a D, E, F and G. There's all these other people cranking it into there. All of these want their stuff done. So they're complaining about the barista in the middle, which is going to be IT. People don't naturally see it must be hard for you because you have so much demand on you. They instead see, why aren't you treating me like the most important person in the world and doing my thing first?
You will respect my authority.
Another way that we can look is simply to ask. Get a group of people together who know a process back to front and simply ask them, what do you think is the stage that causes the most backlog? Backlog in the world of getting things done normally looks like emails piled up. Or you can ask the people when they send stuff out, what are the things they're most commonly having to wait the longest for? So again, it's not exactly perfect, it's not scientific, but it's a way to get an idea about what could be the barista in the system. So again, we can just ask people. And the final way I want to introduce you to is kind of nifty. And I came across this working with a client a little the way back, where it was discovered through, in the efforts to make the process across the board as efficient as possible.
We had a 2-inch diameter thread, 10 threads per inch, and that is a 2A classification.
What had fallen by the wayside is the measuring of the total time from start to finish from the customer point of view. So let's say that that graph looks a bit like this, where what we've got there is each event taking place and then we've got the amount of time each one takes. So in this case, because it's a customer response thing, lower is better. Quick side detail, notice this isn't some sort of average score over the month. It actually shows you the time per event. This allows us to see the story of what the system is.
A picture is worth 1,000 words.
Now this organisation had a lot of data in terms of work they do. They'd spent years going out to houses and doing the fixes in the houses and coming back out again. So what they had was information about how long it took to answer when the calls came in.
How long it took to find a tradie that was out on the road. How long it took the tradie to get to where they needed to go. How long it took the tradie to arrive at the site to get the job done and to leave again.
So they had all these sort of stats. And if you want, we could represent those graphs like this. So what we effectively have are 4 stages of the process, each represented on their graph. Now assume for the time being we've normalised what the axes look like. So what you can tell here is this is the shape of our overall end-to-end response from customer calling to the tradesperson leaving the house. This could say call answering, that could be time to get to the job and that sort of thing. And these are all the different stages of the process. Have you noticed which one of those reflects the overall shape of the end-to-end graph? Definitely not that one, but when we get to here, we can start to see that the shape of this graph looks like the shape of that graph. In other words, that suggests that it's that stage of the process there which has the biggest single impact on the overall end-to-end time. And that then allowed the group to study that aspect of it, and the person that knew how to do that sort of analysis was left alone by everyone else to come up and do it. They found ways that they could reduce the variation, then gradually make that stage of the process faster, and as the shape of that graph changed, the shape of this graph changed. It was basically a way to discover who was a barista in the process by looking at some pictures. And of course, whenever you get a group of people together, if we can all look at some pictures, it all makes a lot more sense. So not only was this a way to find out how we can make the process better, everyone in the room got it at the same time. identify who the barista is in your process. Spend the time working as a group to go through these various ways to do it, to see if you can come up with it. Doing so means that the efforts of your people will be focused and you might actually get something done. That's all for now. I'll see you next time.